today. I'm surprised there's anyone still sitting here, myself included. Just going to give you a brief overview of what we do in Enterprise Ireland in terms of supporting our client companies and what the business case is for trying to be more sustainable in your business practices and how it can actually benefit your company. So just a bit of an overview first of all on what Enterprise Ireland is about, for those of you who don't know us. We have responsibility for the growth and development of Irish companies in world markets. So it's for exporting Irish-owned companies. That's what we are set up for, as opposed to the IDA, who deal with multinational companies. So we work with client companies right across the spectrum. We work in manufacturing and in internationally traded services. And just as regards myself, I'm in the Competitiveness department within Enterprise Ireland. It's an awful mouthful of a name. I wish they'd change it. I find it very difficult to say it. Competitiveness, this. But anyway, our job is really to help companies to build their expertise, knowledge and capability. And that's really about developing staff and developing management skills so that company performance can improve and they can become more competitive, particularly in the global markets. Okay, I suppose just talking around, I'm sure you've heard plenty today about Brexit. It really is a key issue for the Irish economy for the next number of years. And not just alone, but we're also finding out the American market as well is going to be maybe a troublesome area for us. But Brexit is the key area of focus, especially for Enterprise Ireland clients. We export a huge amount into the UK, and this is going to be a real area of concern going forward into the future. And what we're trying to get companies to do is really respond and react now. And while we're not seeing a huge amount of movement, maybe at national level or political level, it's really up to companies now to try and make the changes as best they can right now before things start really rolling and the impacts are felt in a very, very harsh way. So really looking at Brexit, Theresa May's speech there last week referred to the fact that it looked very likely it's going to be a very hard exit for the UK. The impacts of that could be very dramatic on the Irish economy. And we're looking already at a currency differential which has had a huge impact over the last few months. A lot of our Irish companies are supplying into the UK market and would have a very small profit margin in those areas. You could be looking at, especially the food sector, you could be looking at maybe 4%, which is a very low margin. And taking a currency differential of 15+% at the moment, which could potentially get worse, has had a major impact already. And companies are really going to have to move very, very sharpish to counteract that. There's always the potential then, if it is a hard Brexit and policies and plans and negotiations have to be undertaken, we could potentially see some other tariffs coming into play in that particular case. And then of course just general access to the UK markets, physical access, which could be very, very difficult in terms of borders and the like. The US, of course, is another area. We have a new US government which has been very strong arm on trade policy as well. It's already having an impact on some of the countries around the American region. But there's been a lot of talk about the whole company taxation area, and we may potentially see impacts there on Ireland. While some of our established multinationals may stay where they are, there may be some problems with new companies setting up, and our access to the markets also may be impacted by that. So there's concern on both sides of the Atlantic for us. So what are we doing in Enterprise Ireland? Well, we just launched our own strategy there last week, 2017 to 2020, and we have three key areas of focus within that strategy. The company scale, global ambition, and expansion. And really this is about getting companies to go out and look at alternative markets for themselves, because England may well be a closed door for an awful lot of companies, or at least be a very difficult market to access in the future. A key pillar of the strategy is in the whole competitiveness area, and that's what we do in our department, and our focus is on getting companies to be more streamlined and more efficient in how they run their operations. And we'll go into that a little bit more when I talk about the kind of supports we have. I suppose just talking in the macro sense, why become more sustainable just from the global perspective. We already have a responsibility, and people do bang the drum on this a lot, but I think people are beginning to realise now that this is a very real potential impact, that global warming, or climate change at least, is a major area of concern for all of us for the future. Is everyone still able to hear me? Yeah? I lost the mic there. We've got the Climate Change Conference in Paris last year, which was touted as a great success in terms of getting a lot of companies on board, including America and the Far East as well. And it had the potential to be very, very successful. But now, of course, we've seen with the new presidents coming into power in the US, there may be some changes in terms of America's commitment to that. So that could pose enormous problems on a global scale if that happens. You can't see the Chinese and the Indians rolling in if the Americans aren't prepared to do their own bit. The broader impacts as well, we've got our own commitments at a national level. Ireland has been involved in that conference. We have to meet the requirements and standards that are laid down from these agreements, and it means that we've got to make changes in how we do things in Ireland. Now, particularly it's going to affect the agriculture and the transport areas, but industry has its own part to play within all of this as well. But as well as that, we're seeing the environmental impacts, and they are hitting, and people are beginning to see this in the last number of years. We're seeing very broad-based changes in the way the environment actually operates. Climate has been swinging to very extreme weather conditions. They're happening more and more frequently than they used to. And the impacts of those are very, very clear. So we have to get prepared for that, either through adaptation or to actually trying to put the brakes on it a little bit. So we've got all the waste generation which feeds into that. We've got energy security and energy issues related to that. Rising sea levels, and as I mentioned, those kind of weather events. And just on that particular map there, I just got that there from the internet the other day, just a rather scary look at just a 0.25 degrees Celsius increase in the last, what was over 20 years, I think it is, in Antarctica. And particularly this red area here just showing the extreme change in temperature there. We had a couple of weeks ago mention of the part of the Larsen ice shelf, which is actually cracking right across it now and is likely to go at any moment. And that has an iceberg potentially the size of Leinster floating off into the sea. That will make all of this other ice behind it very unstable as well, which means that that particular ice shelf will become very unstable going into the future. So the real potential for growth in sea levels and impacts of flood events are very, very real. They have an economic knock-on effect. So again, in terms of becoming more sustainable, what's the business case for doing it? Well, there are 4 areas that I've kind of highlighted as really the key ones to look at. And these are the kind of areas we make to our companies that they should be looking at. Resource efficiency obviously is the key one. Make your operation as efficient and streamlined as you possibly can. And that means managing your waste, reducing it as much as humanly possible. If you're a water user, controlling the amount of water you use and the amount of effluent that you're actually producing, which you're either paying for through a local authority or you're paying for treatment yourself on site. And of course, energy is the big one, and a lot of people have a lot of focus on that now, but a lot of people don't always know about it. I've gone into many, many companies and asked them, look, what's your energy spend like? And they couldn't tell you. This is the bill that just comes in and gets paid in their finance area. So it's getting that focus, that energy efficiency can be a real good one. Access to markets and customers, reputation, that's becoming a very big thing for now for companies. We've seen it with very large companies now, how they've improved their own environmental and sustainable practices, and they're starting to put pressure down the supply chain. And companies are having to respond to this very, very quickly. And an awful lot of companies have really done nothing to improve their environmental performance so that they can meet those requirements. It gives tendering opportunities as well, as a lot more, particularly in the area of green public procurement, that there's opportunities for companies that have improved their environmental performance, that they can actually access tenders that more easily. On the innovation side then, developing new products and processes as well, just improving, reducing the environmental burden of those products that they're producing, so that their end-of-life activities are not a big problem. Part of that too is looking at the whole area of the life cycle of products, and that's another key area that we want to see their growth coming into now, and it's catching on in a small way, but we'd like to see this really ramp up now over the next number of years, where companies start taking responsibility for the entire life cycle of the products that they're getting, where they're coming from, what they're doing to them on site, and what actually happens to them when they go out the gate in terms of their use and ultimately their disposal. And also on the legal side then, that's just a natural business argument for doing things right. Making sure you're compliant, risk mitigation, those are areas that companies have to be very, very concerned about. They can have real impacts on the company business if there's prosecution or anything like that results in bad practice. Okay, what are we doing in terms of our supports? Enterprise Ireland has had a lean business offer in place since 2010. We've had about 900 companies through that. It's all about improving efficiencies and operational efficiencies. That was always the old idea of Lean, and building capability and capacity within companies. But it's got broader than that now, and as part of this, our green offer feeds very well into the whole Lean business offer that we have. It's about a holistic approach to the business, front gate to back gate, managing everything within your business so that you're doing everything better and more efficiently. And our green offer is there to complement the Lean offer, and it focuses at the environmental end, which is often seen as the end of the process and is very often ignored by companies, but it has potential to have a major impact. And companies that are even involved in Lean activities, there's a knock-on benefit in terms of improved operational efficiencies can lead to energy efficiencies and waste reduction. Okay, so what we have in our green offer, we have a free service that we give to companies. Our first steps to green competitiveness guidebook. It's a free booklet with templates that are available for companies to put a simplified system in place. So for very small companies just starting out the journey of improving their environmental performance, it just helps them with setting up a very basic management system, understanding what their impacts are, and developing a few small KPIs around what they do. It uses a system of eco-maps, which are just a visual overview of the factory, and it gives you the opportunity to highlight areas where there may be problems and there may be potential for improvements within those areas. And it helps the company to get focused on just building up their performance. We supply templates on our website then for companies to utilise those and develop a management system that they can keep in a simple folder. Okay, our Green Start, this is devised for small companies, and this is an actual financial support that we have. The projects would run typically to about €6,300, and we give 50% support towards that. So it's for a consultant to come into the company and develop a formalised environmental management system within the company. Again, at a very basic level, just using the Plan, Do, Check, Act process, getting the company to realise what their impacts are, developing more thorough KPIs, and just getting a system going within the company where they continue to try and improve on what they're doing. We supply guidelines on how the projects are conducted. As I said, it's a 7-day consultancy, and it includes a reporting mechanism in it which gives us feedback, and we ask the company to do a project as part of that, a cost-saving project, which gives us back metrics so that we're able to get a clear idea of how effective these programs actually are. Again, it's for SMEs. So just the Green Plus then is our next level up. So this will be for companies looking to go that bit further, and it's a training-based program, so it's really about rolling a bit of expertise across the company, and particularly training up an internal green champion to implement a much more intensive management system, so either for environmental management system or an energy management system, or potentially to look at life cycle processes across their products. So the consultant comes in this case as an external trainer, trains up the internal person, gives them the skills to actually implement a system and put it in place, and that means the capability remains within the company after the person is departed. They can go up to an international ISO standard level, ISO 14001, 14064 or 50001. Again, a reporting mechanism with that and metrics, we get feedback and metrics from that too. And that is eligible for small and large companies. On our website as well, we've a number of case studies which we've done for a lot of our projects. We've had about 60, 70 projects done at this stage over the last number of years, and we've quite a few case studies there to give a good outline as to why the companies did it and the kind of outcomes and benefits they've got. So just to finish broadly then, we've got outcomes here, just to give you an idea of the kind of successes we have. If companies do apply themselves and try and do something about improving their environmental performance, they can make real savings. Example of an engineering company there, a small engineering company on a Green Start project saving $20,000 a year directly on their energy use. Another engineering company, $19,000 on water, transport and energy. A food company on a bigger Green Plus project getting $400,000 a year on putting ISO 50001 in place for their companies. So 400,000 savings in energy. Food company, 36% savings on energy, 12 on water, 15 on water, 12 on waste. Construction company, finally there again, saving over 30,000, 25 on water, 23 on fuel, right across all the potential impact areas, and also help them to become very successful in 2 large tenders because they had achieved the 14,001 standard. So there are real potential benefits there for our companies, and we're very happy to try and support our client companies in making themselves more competitive in what will potentially be very difficult times ahead. So just our website there is Enterprise Ireland /EN/productivity. We'll give all the further details about what we do. I can be contacted at our green mailbox, green at Enterprise Ireland, enterprise-ireland.com. And that's it. So if anyone's any questions, gladly take them.